this very, very much look forward to game between 2019 runners-up Thomson and preliminary finalists from that year also. No, they weren't. They were knocked out the week earlier. The Inverleigh side. Adam Donoghue coaching the Inverleigh side. His father, Larry Donoghue, is a premiership coach at the Thomson Footy Club. Is going to join us for a quick chat before we get to the game. But the team is now assembled. Headphones on. Good afternoon to Dale Smith.
Yes, good afternoon, Rob. And yes, looking forward to this afternoon's clash. A lot better than where we're going to go. Actually, don't think the night game would have suited me too much. As I said, early night, Saturday night. But looking forward to today's game.
And good afternoon to Richard Grubby-Cations.
G'day, viewers, listeners, and everybody else. I tell you what, we're back here for the second week in a row, which is great. I got a little cheerio to send to me mate Ronnie Comben. He's the son of the great Bruce Comben, played at Captain Carlton and that. He was tough. Ronnie was a squib, but unfortunately, I know you're listening. Ronnie, how are you, mate?
It's going to be a ripper game, gentlemen. Are you looking forward to it as much as last week's game, which turned out to be, slightly one-sided in the middle? It showed a lot about Bannockburn, the reigning premiers, but what did it tell you about Thomson, and what are you expecting from them today? Dale, you can go first.
Well, I'm expecting a lot more today. As I said, I don't believe they were anywhere near what they can play to, although having spoken to a few before the game, some doubted whether they actually thought they might have been better than they were. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens this afternoon. As I said, if they can correct their entry into their forward line a little bit and give their forwards a little bit more opportunity, and I suppose their forwards never nearly performed last week all that well. So if they can get themselves in amongst the goals and on the board, they'll give themselves a chance here against Inverleigh today. But as I said, they want to do a lot better in that area of the game to really set up for
Grubby,
themselves.
what are you expecting from the Thomson Tigers today?
Well, for a start, apparently the young bloke, the new fella's come in. Apparently he's a very, very good player in Jard Anderson. Was he in the team list there, Smitty?
Yeah,
I think.
Mate, he's in.
And he'll give him a fair bit from the middle and can kick pretty well too. So that'll help their deficiencies in last week. But you talk about deficiencies. For God's sake, it was round 2. And like last year, they started off like a bolt out of the blue, and it wasn't until around round 10 or 11 they lost their first game. And they looked like, and the pressure was on them right from the start. Well, the pressure's gone off them now because they've already lost one. And it's, as I say, it's round 2. I spoke to Johnny Mitchell and Steiny and a few of the boys. I said, just take it easy, boys. It's 18 rounds to go. You've got to be playing your best football in August, September, not in April. You don't win premierships in April. They've got plenty of time. They've got a couple of blokes to come back in, although Fenevesi might go out today, I think. But, look, plenty of time. I don't know. Bannockburn, I think that's the best I've seen Bannockburn. That's including when they won the premiership. We've seen Inverleigh, and I thought they were pretty good too. So this could go down to the wire. This could be a really, really good game. I think it was the match of the round before we decided to go to West and everything, realised it was a night game. But we didn't really want to come here 2 weeks in a row. But we have to now, and I'm glad we did because I think we're in for a pretty good game.
Yeah, it's I'm certainly looking forward to seeing Inverleigh, being that I'm a resident of the town. Heard a lot about them. Saw their finals during 2019. They looked a really good side, but not quite there. Recruits, Dale, the important one, I suppose, Matt Tycoon coming in to help in the middle, but there are others there. Do you think they're a better group now than they were in 2019?
Oh, look, it's hard to weigh it up. As I said, you take Jack Kennedy Hunt out of that side, and he was pretty handy at that level of football and provided him with a great avenue to goal. As I said, it's difficult to lay up. I say some of those younger blokes now of that 2 or 3 years older, Rob, so they can really influence the game a little bit more than what they have in recent times. But there's been a few acquisitions to the side that I think will make a big difference to them. As I said, I don't mind Peter Plummer. Usually played at Bell Park and then went down to Drysdale, I think, and plays as a half-back flanker. He was up forward last week when we last saw them, so he provides a pretty good option for them. Yeah, and the other bloke I like is Ryan Robertson. Last week he was pretty good when we saw them, and I think he'll be very, very handy as he gets better and more inclined to take a much bigger role in this middle of the ground for them. So, very handy pickup.
Now the other games today, gentlemen. Do you want to have a quick look at them while we prepare for this one? And probably the other important one is tonight. Perhaps the one we were planning on going to see. Two sides that'll be fighting for those bottom end of the 5, Geelong West and Bellpost Hill. You saw Bellpost Hill early in the year, and I guess they impressed you a bit. West still a bit unknown, but is a positive result for either club here vital even at this early stage?
For these two sides, I reckon it is.
Yeah.
As I said, it's going to be pretty tight at the top. There's probably going to be seven, maybe 7 clubs that can make finals football this year. So again, when you're playing against one of those sides that's going to be competing against for that final spot, I think the game takes on enormous. West played pretty well at home, but Belfast still last week. As I said, they won the game of football. They played Corio, but they went about their job. Caleb basically kicked 8. Can they do that again tonight? I'm not too sure, but they've got pretty handy football at Belpost Hill. They've grown some of their old group back up there to that club, and I think, as I said, they play a brand of football, and they've done it for a number of years, Rob. So it's going to be interesting. But again, as I said, I didn't actually step back yesterday and look at the teams in the paper, so it's a little bit hard. I'm not too sure what came in for West will make a difference. But as I said, I've tipped West at home, and only because of that reason. I think they should go all right.
Their performance last week against Belmont, we saw them, and we aware that they're not going to play finals, but they'll probably be competitive. So was West beating them so comfortably a sign that they are going to be pretty strong?
I think that's what you want to do when you come up against these the sides that are not going to be making finals football. You want to make an impression, I suppose, and percentage, whether it might be the last kick of the game that gets you into a finals game of football. But I think they did enough last week to suggest they're going to be good. I think Blair kicked 8 last week, so he's a bloke that can get on the board pretty regularly. So they've got to have that group, I suppose, 3 or 4 other blokes behind him, all kicking goals. And if they can do that, as I said, they give themselves the best chance. And at home, as I said, I think they've had 2 trips away, haven't they? Or they played at home last week.
Who's that?
Geelong West. No, they were at home last week. And they're home last week against Lions, that's right. Yeah. So, look, I think West can get the job done, but again, it'll be interesting to see. I'm not too sure who rucks for them now. That's the big question. I'm not too sure they've got in there to do the ruck work.
Well, me either, because we haven't seen them, and a lot of the blokes that come over from other clubs, I just don't know who they are. So we really have to see them before we can comment. I can comment on Belpost Hill. I thought they were pretty good against Inverleigh. They didn't quite get the chocolates in the second half. They ran out of legs a little bit. But, last week, who did they play last week? Oh, they had that big win last week, but that was against Corio, with, as you say, with Basely kicking 8 and Barton 3. But, I like seeing their good players get in the best players like Whitney, Barton, Basely, Yates, even Page and Marr. So, look, obviously, they're a pretty good side, Belpost Hill. I don't know if they're going to be as dangerous as they were a few years ago, but you just never know because they've got a lot of the same players and they play the big ground very, very well at the end of the year. But you tell you what, I haven't seen West. I'll go for them because it's at West, but I haven't seen them. It's very reluctant to do that, but we'll see how it goes.
East Geelong against Corio should win easily. Is there a particular score that they sort of have to aim at to be serious? Have they got to win by 100 points?
Sorry, I missed who talking about?
East, are they hosting Corio?
At home. Now, everyone's talking about the full forward they've got. Is it Lemper or something, or is it Lempo or something?
Who?
East Geelong.
McGrath, wasn't it?
I'm not too sure. There's a big bloke they've got into the full forward.
Kicked a fair few the first week, only kicked 1 last week.
Okay, so by all reports, he's the bloke that really impressed. I was talking to Jackson McLeod coming into the ground this morning, and he was saying that he was the bloke that impressed him for East Geelong as a big, tall forward. And basically their overall group that they've now got within the club is pretty impressive. He said they really ran us, and we were lucky to get away with the game. And he said if they had kicked straight or got a couple of goals into the wind, that obviously the result could have been quite different. But Thomson were able to hold them out that day. Today they need to win. They need to win well. And the only thing I said to Grub before, I heard during the week that Joel Bennett may have injured a shoulder, but I'm not having anything more on that, so I'm not too sure that he was actually picked to play in this game. But with him out, that's another big hole to fill.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, East have really drawn the short straw, haven't they? Really, they've had 2 really good, hard games. First up, they reckon they're going to be a contender. I had a look through the week. They've actually got the hardest draw of all. So if it's really close, and they play the big 3 sides twice. They're the only side that does. So if it's really close, decided by percentage or one game, it might go against them. So what they've probably got to do today is, even this early in the year, they've got to try and have a big, big win against Corio. I think they can do that. As I say, they've had 2 really, really hard games. And now they come up against a side that they should beat. McGrath was the bloke you were talking about. He kicked 5 the first week. We only got 1 last week. Lemper got 3 last week. McIntyre was in their best. Belitho, Rich, and then Hoare. And Corio, well, they've just got to keep whacking away. I know I say this every week, and people start to say, when are they going to do it? They've got plenty of time. They're not going to win too many games, but we really hope they win the one and then move on from that. But I think East will get their first win on the board this week.
And another game that's going to be close but not necessarily affecting the finals prospect is Belmont Lions hosting Anarchy. On form of both, I think you'd have to go for Belmont.
Yes, I think I'll be going for Belmont. Anarchy has still got a few players that have trained and haven't been able to play yet because of injuries and stuff like that. And, of course, they've got about 15 or 16 players from all around the countryside who have got to play on the same side and have never played on the same side as each other before. So, they've got a fair bit of gelling to do, Anarchy. Rhodes was pretty good last week. Miraculous, Goodwin, Connor Kent and young Eddie Bryson was pretty good. But I think their best player at the moment is Darren Morris. Condolences too. His grandmother passed away early in the week and had the funeral yesterday. So I tell you what, it's one of the best days I've had for a long time. And it was a funeral, but it was a great day, great send-off, Maureen. He's a good player, young Morris. But I tell you what he did last week. He reckons he went up in the ruck. He was that high. He reckons he was about 20 feet in the air. And the big bloke from where he was high kneed him in the nose and busted his nose. So, but look, he's enjoying coming back to footy. I don't think Anarchy can win this. I think Belmont will probably be too good. Although they're coming off a bit of a shellacking too. So I'll go for Belmont. Corey Goforth got a couple. Keegan, Beath, Hassel, Sandeman and Gray are all in their best. I'll go for Belmont. And 3 or 4, maybe 5 goals.
We'll get to this one shortly, but the other big game tonight we'll certainly cover tomorrow in detail at Bannockburn. But Winchelsea hosting Werribee, and we wondered about how they could concede 18 unanswered goals in the second half. But when you hear about their circumstances of only 16 players on the ground that could compete, they're in real trouble. They've got 8 or 10 out injured at the moment and struggling, so I think they'll struggle for a few more weeks yet, sadly, the Blues.
None of those ones that went off last week are playing. As I said, I didn't know. I knew that they had a few injuries come into the game just by reading the articles during the week in the paper. Look, you don't want to get them injuries this time of the year either. If they've got any expectations of being competitive and playing finals football, you need to win early games. As I said, later in the year you might be able to get away with 1 or 2, but when you've got that many, geez, it hurts. So yeah. I think I picked Winch in the thing today, but having heard all that, I think I'd probably change my mind now, and I'd probably swing around the other way. But look, hopefully they can. Obviously, they'll have 22 fit players to start the game, and they can be competitive and get it themselves on the board. Footy's a funny game, but I would think Werribee would probably win this game of footy.
Well, I don't know so much because I don't know what happened to them last week, but that explanation that you just gave with players and only had 16, because I went out and watched them at night against Bannockburn, and they kicked 5 goals against Bannockburn to 4 in the first quarter, and they looked on. They looked good. Since they didn't kick a goal after quarter time, obviously, but Bannockburn only kicked one after half time. It was torrential rain. But since then, obviously, they've lost a few. The main one they lost is probably the best defender in the comp, and Alex Gubbins. I love watching him play, and we won't be seeing him for a while with an Achilles injury. Werribee, well, look, they've beaten West and Anarchy. West with quite a few players out, and Anarchy who were struggling. They took a long, long time to put Anarchy away. I've got to give Anarchy credit. All the blokes I spoke to during the week about last week's game, they gave Anarchy a lot of credit. They never gave up, and it took Werribee a long time to break them. They were never going to lose the game, but I think they would have wanted to win the game by a bit more than that. So well done to Anarchy. Brad Carlton, another best on the ground performance, and he's one of the boys that come through the juniors at Werribee Central. It's great to see that. Young Linehan Cunningham, Connor that is. Zach Anthony, fullback, went to full forward and kicked a couple. Chesterman, Daly and Taylor. I tell you what, I'm going to go for Werribee because I'll get undrawn and quartered if I don't. But Winchelsea, as I say, I thought they looked all right. They're also very, very hard to beat at night at Winch. I'm going to go for Werribee, but I'll tell you what, Winchelsea, they might even roll them. There you go.
It'll be a little miracle if they do, I think, with the side they've got. But Brendan Forsman was confident they'll start to get a few of that 8 back over the next 3 to 4 weeks. One's back today. But they will eventually get okay, but I think it's going to take them a while to get a roll up. We might just drop back to the studio for a minute, David, take a quick break, and when we get back, Thomson Premiership coach and father of current Inverleigh coach Larry